Hype surrounding the launch of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is, understandably enough, mounting at a rapid rate, and the developer, to its credit, has taken every chance to strike while the iron is hot. New previews, trailers, interviews, and more have come at a steady clip for quite some time now, as a result of which there's plenty about the upcoming action RPG sequel that's been revealed. And plenty that's got us even more excited to get our hands on it. We recently looked at a few key details about the game that you should know before diving into its offerings. But there's plenty more that we haven't yet talked about, so to that end, here we're going to go over a few more interesting tidbits. Red 13. Red 13 was introduced as an AI-controlled companion towards the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but in Rebirth, he's going to be a fully playable party member right from the get-go. What can we expect from him in combat, though? From his basic attacks, he'll swipe at enemies with his claws. And on top of that, Red 13 will also get a new mechanic that will be exclusive to him in the form of Vengeance Mode, which will run on a separate revenge gauge. Acting as the thematic opposite of ATB, Red 13's revenge gauge will build up each time you successfully block an attack, and once filled up entirely, will allow you to use special attacks that will deplete the gauge. One such attack, called Siphon Fang, will allow him to not only deal damage to enemies but also to siphon their health. After appearing as the main playable protagonist in Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrades episode Intermission, Karagi is also going to be a playable party member in Rebirth. Her base mechanics will largely be familiar to anyone who played the aforementioned episode, though there will of course also be some new wrinkles. For her basic attacks, Karagi will throw her large throwing star at enemies, which, interestingly enough, will build up ATB faster than other characters' basic attacks. Not only will her weapon of choice make her a ranged specialist, while her star is out, she'll also be able to use various different elemental, magic-infused ninjutsu moves. One particular ability, Doppelganger, will, as its name suggests, allow her to create a clone of herself and attack enemies in tandem with it, essentially doubling her damage output and exploiting enemies' elemental weaknesses to even greater effect. XIII. Fan-favorite Moogle riding cat XIII is going to be a completely new introduction in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and will bring some interesting elements to the table in combat. His agility and the speed at which he darts around the battlefield will make him particularly useful, while he will of course also have the ability to summon his large Moogle friend and aid him during combat. That will include being able to hop on the Moogle and ride around the battlefield and even use special attacks that way. Meanwhile, buffing allies will also be something XIII will excel at. Rufus Shinra. Moving beyond party members and onto other characters who are still going to have a key role to play in the game, one in particular that the developer has confirmed is going to be at the center of some new content is Rufus Shinra, who's set to inherit the title of President of Shinra Electric Power Company following his father's death in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Speaking in an interview with Inverse, the developer confirmed that new narrative content in Rebirth will dig deeper into Rufus's character and his personal arc, revealing more about him. Quote, "We won't be making immense departures from the original. With Remake, we went further in depth into Avalanche in ways that were not done in the original. This will be done for Rufus as well. He will have some sort of new episodes that do not exist in the original, where we will get to know more about him and dig deeper," end quote. Chadley. Chadley will be returning in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth once again as your primary means of developing new materia, though that will take a different form this time. In Rebirth, Chadley will task players with accruing as much information about the game's larger world as possible. The more you explore, visit locations, and unearth treasures, the more world intel you'll gain, which you can then spend whenever you meet Chadley to develop new materia. Proto relics. One of the many side activities that will be available in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's world map will be finding proto-relics, which, according to the developer, are artifacts of unknown origin that emit a unique energy signal. With Chadley's help, Cloud & Company will gain the means to track down proto-relics, but doing so will also come with unique challenges because these strange artifacts, which have the ability to alter space-time, can have reality-bending effects. Chocoo boutiques. A Final Fantasy game without chocobos is no Final Fantasy game at all, and unsurprisingly, there will be plenty of those giant chickens going around in Rebirth's world. They will in fact be a key means of traversal, while chocobo stables will also serve as fast travel points. Additionally, chocobo stables will also have their own chocobotiques, where players will be able to customize their ride's gear and equipment. That, in turn, will impact their performance in chocobo races. Seamless map. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's massive open-world setting is one of the biggest ways it's improving upon Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the developer has made some lofty promises for what to expect from it. For starters, it's been confirmed that the world map is going to be an entirely seamless one, though the story will inform which parts of the map you can and cannot explore. When you are exploring, there'll be no load time separating any areas from the rest. Meanwhile, in an interview with Press Start, the developer also confirmed that the entirety of the original Final Fantasy VII's world map has been recreated in Rebirth. They said, quote, "What we've done is we've taken the world map from the original Final Fantasy VII, but we've created it all in a one-to-one real scale, so all of the dungeons, all of the cities, everything in that world is now included in the same space. One seamless map," end quote. Gold Saucer. Gold Saucer is one of the most iconic locations in the original Final Fantasy VII, so what can we expect from it in Rebirth? In an interview with the PlayStation blog, the developer revealed that players will first arrive at the amusement park at about the halfway point in the game, following which you'll be able to return to it whenever you want. Each time you return, you will find new minigames and unlock new difficulty options for minigames. While it's also been confirmed that the parts of the park that will be used for the main story have been entirely remade and upgraded. New cities. From the aforementioned Gold Saucer to Nibelheim and others, all the iconic locations you remember from the original Final Fantasy VII's world map are being recreated and expanded on in Rebirth. But on top of that, the game's world will also include entirely new locations that weren't present in the original. The same was confirmed by the developer in an interview with Game Informer. They said, quote, "In Rebirth, we've added these types of cities like the new Crow's Nest. Totally new cities that did not exist in the original to go deeper and create this whole world view of Rebirth. We reach this area after completing a quest, and then this place unlocks. The residents already know Cloud and the party are a part of Avalanche," end quote. Minigames. One of the many areas where the developer seems to have gone all out in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is its collection of minigames, with not only plenty that will be returning from the original game, but also some that are going to be entirely new. Rebirth's roster of minigames will include chocobo races, which, according to the developer, has been expanded into a full-fledged racing game, playing the piano in Piano Performance, bringing Moogle kids back to their Mog stools and Moogle mischief, and more. One minigame that won't be returning, however, is the snowboarding one, so don't go looking for it at XIII or Gold Saucer. Queen's Blood. The one minigame in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that looks like it's going to be more elaborate than all the others is Queen's Blood, which is a card game of its own, and seemingly another example of how the game is taking cues from The Witcher 3. According to the developer, in Queen's Blood, players will take turns placing cards on the board in an attempt to overpower their opponent by accumulating power in each lane, and yes, you will be finding and collecting new cards to add to your desk throughout the game's world. Dynamic difficulty option. Where its gameplay modes and difficulty options are concerned, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will, as you would expect, bring back the options present in its predecessor in the form of normal and hard difficulty modes and classic and action combat modes. In addition to that, the game will also feature a new dynamic difficulty option. In a nutshell, this option will bring level scaling into the mix, which means all enemies in the game will level up as you level up, ensuring a consistent level of challenge at all times depending on the progress that you've made. Size. The developer has stressed on no few occasions that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is set to be an absolutely massive game, and that, it seems, will be reflected in its file size as well. In total, the game will have a staggering installation size of 150 gigabytes, which is very much on the higher end of what we see from games even now, in a time where game sizes are ballooning at a rapid rate. 2 discs. Like the original Final Fantasy VII and 2020's Final Fantasy VII Remake before it, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will continue the tradition of launching on multiple discs, with the developer having confirmed that the physical edition will ship on 2 Blu-ray discs. The first one will contain 100 gigabytes of data, with the remaining 50 gigs found on the second. Obviously, both will be required for installation, but only one will be required to play the game afterward, which means no swapping will be necessary. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.